So the first thing you do is make sure that the needle is threaded on the thread, and here we're going to use a double cord, and then you go all the way to the end of the cord. We're going to create the first knot. So you come to the end of the cord and make sure there's a good 8 inches or so left dangling, and then you're just going to take a simple overhand knot. So just around the fingers and then through, and you pull it all the way. And make your first knot. Slip it off the fingers, and there it is. And that's where the first bead is going to go. Now we're going to thread the first bead onto the mala. So I recommend putting the beads in a bowl just so they don't get scattered all over the place. And then you're just going to slide the bead right onto the needle and bring it all the way to the end. And then you snug it right up against the first knot. And then we're going to tie our first knot. So watching here, the bead is pressed against the knot, and you take the cord, bring it around your fingers, and then you're going to slide and pull all of the cord all the way through. So you have a knot here, and then you're going to take your tweezers and holding this extra cord here in the hand, take the tweezers and go right up against the knot. So you're going in between the knot and the bead. So you're holding onto the cord of the bead right here, and then just release this knot. Hold on to the end and pull it tight. And then when you have it fairly snug, you just pull the tweezer out, give it a little tug here, and see how it's a little bit farther away from the knot? All you do, instead of shoving it down with your thumbs, just pull the two cords and separate them, and you'll see the bead is knotted right up against. Now I'm going to demonstrate one more knot here. So I've taken the next bead and brought it right down the needle, right onto the cord. You take hold of it and you're just pressing it down a little bit so it's snug. Again, you're wrapping the cord around the fingers, and then just pull the cord through here to create the knot. So you're pulling it through nice and easy, all the way till the needle comes all the way through. Then you have a knot here, so just reach the tweezers in between the knot, right behind the knot, and right onto the main cord. And then you just slip your hand out and take a hold of the long cord here, the one that goes back to the needle, and you just pull it tight. And then when it gets towards the tweezers, make sure this is in focus here, just release the tweezers, and there's the knot. Now to make it a little bit tighter, you take both ends of the long cord and you just give it a little tug. This is nylon, so it has a little bit of give to it. And then there's the knot tied up against the other one. So you'll notice that the knots sometimes come in different shapes. That's very normal. And as your mala begins to get some life and stretch out, that just gives them that sort of unique personality. So you continue to string until you get all 108 beads on. And as you're working along and stringing, make sure you're taking the time to stretch it, the mala out, and just make sure it has a nice shape as you go. And then when you get to, make sure you count, you have 108 beads and there's knots at the end. It's going to be time to put on the guru bead. So you start with the guru bead and take the ends that don't have a needle, and you're going to thread them through the hole. And this can take a little bit tricky, and if you find that it's difficult, you just put a needle on, take the needle off the other end and string them through. So here you have one set of the ends threaded through the guru bead, and then take the needle end and you thread it right through. So this side goes a little bit easier. Again, if you have a hollow bead like this one, you may want to thread the needle end first, and then you can cut the needle off and use it on other ends. You string this through until you have all of the threads nice and tight. And then when they are nice and tight, and it looks like this, you're going to tie yet another overhand knot, just like you've been doing all along, right here. So you do it just the same way. And then you pull the, the overhand knot through, just as you've done all along, and you pull the strands, separate the strands, and give them a tug till the knot looks nice and secure. And then we're ready to work on the tassel. So the first step in making the tassel is actually to wind the silk. So I'm using here a business card because it's nice and thick. You can also use a credit card if you want just a little bit shorter tassel, or you can use like the side of an envelope to create a little longer one. So you just, you have your silk over here, and you'll start setting it up by having the, keep an end here. And then just start winding, and you're going to continue winding until you have a fairly substantial amount of silk around the card. So you keep winding, and when you're probably going to use 2 packages of this. So when you get to the first one, just make sure that you have both ends dangling, because you can cut them off. And then you'll continue winding. So this can be kind of a fairly small tassel. If you want a little bit bigger tassel, you go into the second pack, but make sure you save some. Don't wind the whole thing off, because you're going to need to use it to tie the tassel off. And this comes out a little bit kinked just because it's wrapped around the card. So I just took this this contraption and put it right underneath the steamer. So if you have a closed steamer, you can use it, or underneath the iron. You don't put any pressure with the iron, but just press the steam button, and that will get rid of the kinks. So you've gone and wound the silk tassel, and then just steam it so you can get rid of all of those little kinks if it came off of the card. And there it is. Then coming back to the mala, so you have the guru bead on and the short cord, and then there's always some extra cord here with the needle. So just go ahead and trim that off, just to make it a little bit easier to handle. And then you save the needle for, of course, making other malas. And now we're going to show you how to attach the silk tassel to the mala. So you start by just separating the 2 sets of cords on the necklace itself, and then you'll take the silk that you've wound, making sure that the extra ends are down here, and you're going to slide it off the card. Being a little careful here. And you're finding that halfway point, so you put your finger on it. You can cut this. I sometimes wait until the end just in case it's a little bit uneven once I make the knot. So you just keep your fingers right around it. Make sure you're keeping the whole thing. And then you're just going to go ahead and bring both ends across and tie a knot underneath. And then you just tie these 2 knots together here. This looks a little funny because these are similar colors. Here you go. So it's about halfway, and you take a hold here, and you're just going to tie a square knot. So you can always rework the nylon a little bit, the silk not so much. So you want to be a little bit more careful with that. So here I have this lined up, and I want to get it, so this is about the halfway point. And then you check to see what you have here. Just pulling this through and making sure that the knot looks good. And then you're going to tie another one. And so this is a square knot tight, keeping this nice and tight here. And now the tassel silk is attached to the mala. So you take the cords up here, get any strays, and you bring them all down and just start smoothing it out. Yeah, so now we'll show you how to wind it. It's worth it to take just a little bit of time here to just pull this down and smooth it out and work it. And then you may or may not want to cut, down here. You can do it now or later. And we'll bring the scissor down and cut it to make it even. And it's starting to come together. Then you're going to cut through here. So pull the mala vertex. You are going to be able to trim it. So pull it nice and tight and just go ahead and cut through all of this. And it will start to look like a tassel, yeah? Again, you'll make it even once we get it wrapped, and you want to work with the silk a little bit just to get it nice and smooth, and that's normal. Here, so you just start to work it, and then feel like when you get the top part ready, we'll start the wrapping process. So to start to wrap the tassel, you want to, I don't know, about a yard or so. So with the double, about 2 yards of the silk, and you do double it. It's nice to work with it doubled, and then you're going to fold it about in half. So you'll start with the midpoint right about here. Then you smooth down the top of the mala, and you'll take your silk cord here again about at the midpoint. And you will just start to wrap it around. So here you might want someone to help you holding this end of the mala, and you can work, or you can work, by yourself. And you just start to wrap this around until it is completely, and you can work both ends at the same time until it is wrapped. So you decide how much you want to wrap it, and it doesn't need to be perfect. Just let it be what it's going to be, because it's unique to you. And then you have so both of these ends here that you've worked to wrap, and you're just going to tie them off. Now remember, you've been working with nylon up here in the mala, which is very strong, and this is silk. So you need to tie the knot firmly, but yeah, you don't want to snap it, because that is always possible. So you just work in a nice knot here. And then glide it, making it somewhat tight. And then you will probably want to tie another one. Yeah, so this is just a little square knot. And nice and firm. So I would let these be and see how this goes. You may need to tuck this little knot underneath, find a little spot for it, or work it a little bit down a little bit further in the mala, but you'll see. And then eventually it will lay down. And then the last step, I would wait, because there's some kinks here, I would wait and work the silk a little bit, work with the steamer, and then you give it a final trim, just to trim off all the uneven edges here, so it's it's even. And then we worked with a similar color of nylon, but if you had let's say you'd strung it in a dark and you wanted to cut that off, you can just reach in here and find those other your nylon and trim it off, and that is your mala.